Although the 1995 criminal trial of O.J. Simpson for the murders of Nicole Brown-Simpson and Ronald Goldman has been described as a great trash novel come to life, its grip on the American public was undeniable. If the initial reports of the murder of the ex-football star's wife hadn't fully captivated the public, Simpson's surreal Bronco chase on the day of his arrest certainly did. 95 million viewers watched the slow police pursuit live on television. The 133 days of televised courtroom testimony turned countless viewers into Simpson trial enthusiasts. Even international figures like Margaret Thatcher and Boris Yeltsin were drawn into the drama. When Yeltsin stepped off his plane to meet President Clinton, his first question was, "Do you think O.J. did it?" On October 3rd at 10 a.m., as Judge Ito's clerk read the jury's not guilty verdict, 91% of all television viewers were fixated on the unfolding scene in the Los Angeles courtroom. The exact events that unfolded sometime after 10 p.m. on Sunday, June 12, 1994, remain disputed. However, it is widely believed that a single male entered Nicole Brown-Simpson's condominium on Bundy Drive in the upscale Brentwood area of Los Angeles through the back entrance. In a small, nearly enclosed area near the front gate, the assailant brutally slashed Nicole, almost severing her neck. He then struggled with and repeatedly, about 30 times, stabbed Ronald Goldman, a 25-year-old acquaintance of Nicole's, who had come to her condominium to return a pair of sunglasses her mother had left earlier that evening at the Mezzaluna restaurant. Shortly after midnight, Nicole's howling Akita, with blood on its belly and legs, drew the attention of a neighbor, who then discovered the two bodies. Thus began the ill-fated investigation of the Brown-Simpson and Goldman murders. Meanwhile, Nicole Brown-Simpson's ex-husband, former football star and media personality Orenthal James, O.J. Simpson, was aboard American Airlines flight number 668 to Chicago. Simpson had departed from Los Angeles at 11:45 p.m. after receiving a ride to the airport in a limousine driven by Alan Park, an employee of the Town and Country Limousine Company. The limousine had left Simpson's estate on Rockingham Avenue about half an hour late after Park called at 10:25 p.m. to report that no one answered his ring at the door. Park observed a man he assumed to be Simpson entering the house at 10:56 p.m. Early Monday morning, police contacted Simpson at the O'Hare Plaza Hotel in Chicago, where he had planned to attend a Hertz rental car company convention. When informed that his wife had been killed, Simpson did not ask how, when, or by whom. According to his later testimony, he smashed a glass in grief, badly cutting his left hand. Prosecutors would offer a different explanation for the injury. Simpson boarded the next flight to Los Angeles, arriving home around noon to find a full-scale police investigation underway. With police tape stretched across his front gate and cardboard tags marking bloodstains on the driveway. Los Angeles police questioned Simpson for about half an hour that day. They asked him many questions about the deep cut on his right hand. At first, Simpson said he didn't know how he got the cut. Later, he suggested he cut it when he reached into his Bronco on the night of the murders, then reopened it when he broke a glass in his Chicago hotel room after hearing about Nicole's murder. The police interview was poorly done. They didn't ask obvious follow-up questions and missed other important ones. The interview was so unhelpful that neither side used it as evidence at the trial. Eventually, the police gathered enough evidence to believe Simpson was guilty of the murders and got a warrant for his arrest. Simpson's lawyer, Robert Shapiro, arranged for Simpson to turn himself in at police headquarters by 10 a.m. on June 17th, the day after Nicole's funeral. When Simpson didn't show up, the police told Shapiro they would go to Simpson's home to arrest him. After 1 p.m., 4 officers knocked on Simpson's front door. They and Shapiro soon discovered Simpson had disappeared. He was on what would become one of the most famous police chases in American history. Simpson left behind a letter that seemed like a suicide note. It ended with, "Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I helped yours. Peace and love, O.J."
Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person.
Around 6:20 p.m., a motorist in Orange County saw Simpson in a white Bronco driven by his friend, A.C. Cowlings, and called the police. Soon, A dozen police cars, news helicopters, and curious onlookers were following the Bronco. The slow chase ended with Simpson's arrest in his driveway. In Cowling's vehicle, police found $87.50 in cash, a fake beard and mustache, a loaded gun, and a passport. For the prosecution, the biggest mistake of the trial might have been filing the Simpson case in downtown Los Angeles instead of Santa Monica, where the crime happened. The prosecution claimed this was to reduce commuting time for prosecutors and handle the media better. However, it was probably a political decision to avoid a mostly white jury in Santa Monica, which could lead to racial protests or riots like those after the Rodney King trial. The prosecutors likely believed their case against Simpson was so strong that even a racially diverse jury in downtown Los Angeles would have to convict him. Filing downtown was just the first of many decisions that may have hurt the prosecution's case. Not seeking the death penalty meant they didn't get a death-qualified jury, which studies suggest is more likely to convict. A death-qualified jury excludes anyone opposed to the death penalty, who are often disproportionately black and female. The prosecutors also ignored their own jury consultant's advice to use peremptory challenges to exclude black and female potential jurors as much as legally possible. Once the trial began, there were other mistakes. These included having Simpson try on the glove used in the murder, calling Mark Furman to the stand, and presenting so much evidence from so many witnesses over so many weeks that the case lost much of its impact. The trial finally started on Tuesday, January 24, 1995. Reporters and camera crews gathered under drizzling skies for what writer Dominic Dunn called the Super Bowl of murder trials. Judge Lance Ito began by telling everyone in the courtroom that he expected to see some fabulous lawyering skills. Christopher Darden started the prosecution's opening statement, describing Simpson as an abusive husband and a jealous lover of Nicole Brown-Simpson. Darden told the jurors, if he couldn't have her, he didn't want anybody else to have her. Marcia Clark followed with a statement outlining the facts that would prove Simpson's guilt during the trial. The next day, Johnny Cochran gave the opening statement for the defense, presenting a confusing timeline and suggesting Simpson was too crippled by arthritis to commit the murders. Cochran told the jury that the evidence against Simpson was contaminated, compromised, and ultimately corrupted. Over the next 99 days, the prosecution called 72 witnesses. The first set suggested Simpson had the motive and opportunity to kill. The second set suggested he used that opportunity to kill his ex-wife and Ronald Goldman. The first group of witnesses included Nicole's relatives and friends, O.J.'s friends, and a 911 dispatcher. They were brought in to show Simpson's motive and his history of domestic abuse. Nicole's sister, Denise Brown, described seeing O.J. at his daughter Sydney's dance recital on the day of the murder. She said Simpson looked scary, like a madman. She recalled a dinner where O.J. grabbed Nicole's crotch and said, "This is where babies come from, and this belongs to me." Tearfully, she recounted an incident where an enraged Simpson picked up her sister and threw her against a wall. Ron Shipp, a friend of O.J.'s, testified that Simpson once told him, "I've had some dreams of killing Nicole." A 911 dispatcher also took the stand, allowing the prosecution to play a terrifying 911 call from Nicole, describing an ongoing assault. The prosecution then called witnesses, including limousine driver Alan Park, Cato Kalin, and LAPD officers, to establish a timeline showing Simpson had enough time to commit the murders. Alan Park was one of the prosecution's most effective witnesses. He testified that he arrived at Simpson's Rockingham home at 10:25 p.m. to pick him up for his flight to Chicago. Park said he rang the doorbell repeatedly, but got no answer. Shortly before 11 p.m., Park saw a shadowy figure, black, tall, about 200 pounds, and wearing dark clothes, walk up the driveway and enter the house. A few minutes later, Simpson emerged, telling Park he had overslept. Park testified that Simpson carried a small black bag, which the prosecution suggested might have contained the murder weapon, and wouldn't let Park touch it. The bag has never been found. A skycap at the Los Angeles airport testified that he saw Simpson near a rubbish bin. Simpson's houseguest, Cato Kalin, one of the trial's more colorful characters, testified that he and Simpson returned from a run for Big Macs and French fries at 9:36 p.m. After that, Kalin couldn't account for Simpson's whereabouts. He mentioned hearing thumps on his wall just before 11 p.m., Around the same time, Park saw the shadowy figure enter the house. The prosecution also presented telephone records showing Simpson used his car cell phone to call his girlfriend, Paula Barbieri, at 10:03 p.m. The defense did not explain why Simpson would use his car's cell phone if he was in his backyard practicing his golf swing, as he claimed. Next, the prosecution brought in witnesses to directly tie Simpson to the murders. This evidence was technical and circumstantial, involving blood, hair, fiber, and footprint analysis from the Bundy crime scene and Simpson's Rockingham home. The most compelling testimony, assuming the tests were accurate, involved 2 RFLP tests. The first indicated that blood found at the crime scene could have come from only 1 in 170 million people, and Simpson fit the profile. The second test involved blood found on 2 black socks in Simpson's bedroom. According to the prosecution, only 1 in 6.8 billion people matched the blood sample, and Nicole Brown-Simpson might be the only person on Earth whose blood matched the blood found on the socks. During cross-examination of the prosecution's DNA experts, the defense tried to suggest that the blood samples were either contaminated or planted by corrupt police officers. The LAPD officer who found a bloody glove outside Cato Kalin's bedroom turned out to be very helpful for the defense's corrupt police theory. The officer, Mark Furman, testified for the prosecution on March 9 and 10. In his book about the trial, Robert Shapiro wrote that Marcia Clark treated Furman like he was a hero. 3 days later, F. Lee Bailey began a tough cross-examination of Furman, asking if he had ever used the N-word in the past 10 years. Furman said he never had. However, the tapes of Furman were presented in court where he countlessly used the N-word, the racial hatred, and a declared willingness to frame black suspects or dispense curbside justice to them. The tapes evoked shock and rage among many people of color. They were another blow to a city still on edge from the bloody 1992 riots triggered by the acquittal of 4 white police officers who were videotaped beating black motorist Rodney G. King. Another big problem for the prosecution came when Christopher Darden, sure that the bloody gloves belonged to Simpson, decided to have Simpson try on the gloves in front of the jury. Judge Ito asked a bailiff to bring Simpson near the jury box. Darden told Simpson, "Pull them on. Pull them on." Simpson struggled with the gloves and said, "They don't fit, see? They don't fit." It later turned out there were reasons why they didn't fit. The gloves might have shrunk from the blood, and photos showed Simpson wearing gloves that didn't fit well. But the damage was done. Johnny Cochran later famously said, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." A field trip during the trial highlighted how the defense used the race issue to their advantage with a jury that included 9 African Americans. The trip to the Bundy Avenue crime scene and Simpson's Rockingham home was supposed to help the jury understand the locations of bodies, gloves, and socks. However, the defense used it to show a favorable image of Simpson's life. Before the jury arrived at Simpson's home, they removed a picture of his girlfriend, Paula Barbieri, and replaced it with a Norman Rockwell print, showing a black girl being escorted to school by federal marshals. Pictures of Simpson with white golfing buddies were swapped with pictures of his mother and other black people. A Bible was placed on an end table in the living room. The tour went very well for the defense. As the group toured his home, Simpson pointed to a backyard play area and said, "That's where I practiced my golf swing." Simpson's defense team, dubbed the Dream Team by the media, aimed to undermine the prosecution's evidence about motive, argue that Simpson was physically incapable of committing the crime, raise doubts about the prosecution's timeline, and suggest that key physical evidence was contaminated, planted, or both. On July 10, 1995, Simpson's daughter Arnell testified as the first defense witness. She was followed by Simpson's sister and his mother, Eunice Simpson. By the time Simpson's mother finished her testimony, some courtroom observers noticed that the jury seemed to empathize more with the Simpson family than with the victims' families. Despite its success, the defense made some missteps. Simpson's doctor, Robert Huizenga, testified that O.J. was in poor health, comparing him to Tarzan's grandfather, due to arthritis and other issues. However, the prosecution countered with a video taken shortly before the murders, showing Simpson leading intense physical exercises. Particularly damaging was a moment where Simpson joked about doing a punching exercise with the wife. The most talked about part of the defense case involved LAPD officer Mark Furman, who had found the bloody glove and denied using the racial slur N-word during his testimony. It was later revealed that Furman had used the slur multiple times, and it was caught on tape. Laura Hart McKinney, an aspiring screenwriter, had taped her interviews with Furman, where he not only used the offensive word but also admitted to planting evidence to secure convictions. The defense wanted McKinney to testify and play portions of her tapes for the jury. The prosecution objected, arguing that McKinney's testimony was irrelevant without evidence suggesting that evidence was planted in the Simpson case. They claimed that the prejudicial impact would outweigh its probative value. Judge Ito allowed the defense to present this evidence, opening the door for their theory that Furman had taken a glove from the Bundy crime scene, smeared it with Nicole's blood, and planted it outside Kaylin's bedroom to frame Simpson. However, it might not have been Furman, but rather a soft-spoken Chinese-American forensic expert named Henry Lee, who played a significant role in Simpson's acquittal. Lee had strong credentials, smiled at the jury, and provided what appeared to be a convincing reason to question the prosecution's main physical evidence. Lee raised doubts with blood splatter demonstrations, suggested that shoeprint evidence indicated more than one assailant, and straightforwardly concluded about the prosecution's DNA tests. Something's wrong. Christopher Darden speculated after the trial that Lee might have been the one who gave the jury permission to do what they already wanted to do: acquit Simpson. Jury forewoman Amanda Cooley praised Lee as a very impressive gentleman, and another juror agreed, calling him the most credible witness who had a lot of impact on a lot of people. When closing arguments began in the Simpson case, it had already surpassed the Charles Manson trial as the longest jury trial in California history. The jury had been isolated for nearly a year and was showing signs of fatigue. Judge Ito was criticized for allowing the trial to drag on and for not managing the lawyers effectively. Marcia Clark's closing argument for the prosecution aimed to address the Furman issue. She denounced Furman as a racist and a terrible cop, but argued that it didn't mean there was a conspiracy. Clark presented the prosecution's evidence as pieces of a puzzle, gradually revealing the image of O.J. Simpson. Christopher Darden followed, suggesting Simpson could be both a great football player and a murderer. Johnny Cochran's closing argument for the defense added more controversy to the already contentious trial. His co-counsel, Robert Shapiro, later criticized Cochran for playing the race card too aggressively. Cochran compared the prosecution's case to Hitler's persecution of the Jews, suggesting Furman's racism was akin to genocide. He argued that allowing Furman to continue in his role was tantamount to condoning his racist beliefs. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours in the case that lasted 133 days, involved 150 witnesses, and cost $15 million. On October 3, 1995, at 10 a.m., Judge Ito's clerk, Deidre Robertson, announced the verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder. Simpson sighed in relief, Cochran celebrated, and the Dream Team rejoiced.
All right, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robertson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown-Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information. Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, further find the special circumstance that the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, has in this case been convicted of at least 1 crime of murder of the first degree and 1 or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true. Signed this 2nd day of October 1995, Juror 230. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all. Yeah.
All right, counsel, Mr. Simpson, would you be seated, please?
The killer! O.J. is innocent!
I think it's great. He deserves to go free. They had no evidence on him.
The jury was pretty irresponsible, and money can buy you justice.
Just don't think justice was served. I don't think the jury did their job.
Meanwhile, Kim Goldman, Ron's sister, and his mother Patty Goldman cried out in anguish. After the verdict, Simpson vowed to spend the rest of his life finding the real killer of his ex-wife, but soon faced a civil trial in Santa Monica. The trial lasted 3 months and had a different outcome. Simpson had to testify and struggled to explain contradictions. Photos emerged showing Simpson wearing shoes he claimed not to own. Judge Hiroshi Fujisaki presided over the civil trial and prevented fanciful conspiracy theories. After 17 hours of deliberation, the jury found Simpson liable for Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown-Simpson's deaths, based on the preponderance of evidence standard. They ordered Simpson to pay $8.5 million in compensatory damages and $25 million in punitive damages. However, under California law, Simpson could continue to live off a $25,000 a month pension fund. Simpson's legal troubles still were not over, however. In 2007, Simpson coordinated a gunpoint assault and robbery of 2 sports memorabilia dealers in a Las Vegas hotel room. Simpson claimed that he was simply trying to recover memorabilia that was rightfully his, but the jury thought otherwise. Simpson received a 9 to 33-year sentence for robbery, assault with a deadly weapon, and kidnapping. If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer, is a book by O.J. Simpson and Pablo Fenves, where Simpson provides a hypothetical account of the murders of Nicole Brown-Simpson and Ron Goldman. Initially announced in November 2006, the book's release was canceled, though 400,000 copies were printed and leaked online by June 2007. In August 2007, a Florida bankruptcy court awarded the book's rights to the Goldman family to partially satisfy a civil judgment. The book, retitled If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer, was published by Beaufort Books. This edition included comments from the Goldman family, Fenves, and journalist Dominic Dunn. The new cover design minimized the word "if" inside the word "I," making the title appear as I Did It, Confessions of the Killer, on a cursory glance. In July 2017, Simpson was granted parole, and he left Lovelock Correctional Center in Nevada on October 1, 2017. It happened to be the same day as the tragic mass shooting in Las Vegas, where 58 people lost their lives. The Simpson trial highlighted the deep divide in racial attitudes, especially regarding law enforcement, that still exists today. This aspect may be its most enduring legacy. However, it also had other significant effects. It raised awareness about domestic violence issues, provided lessons on how not to conduct a criminal trial, slowed down the trend of allowing cameras in courtrooms, and gave rise to a new form of immersive journalism that remains popular today. The trial brought forth ethical questions concerning race, economics, whistleblowing, and media responsibility, all of which were discussed during a question-and-answer session following the trial. Perhaps the O.J. Simpson trial is best understood as a cultural phenomenon rather than just a legal case. Any event that captures such widespread public attention for an extended period will inevitably have profound cultural impacts. The slow white Bronco has become a symbol, and the trial introduced a new set of celebrities: Kato Kaelin, Mark Furman, Lance Ito, Marcia Clark, and Johnny Cochran. Moreover, it forever altered perceptions of the N-word. Throughout much of his career, O.J. Simpson represented a vision of a post-racial America. He was a football icon, an NFL Hall of Famer, and a pioneering figure. He appeared in commercials, such as the 1978 Hertz ad, which marked one of the first instances of a black spokesperson for a major national company. Simpson later transitioned into a successful movie career. Simpson often distanced himself from black issues, famously stating, "I'm not black, I'm O.J." Dave Zirin, the sports editor at The Nation, noted that Simpson associated this post-racial concept with economic success, viewing it as liberation from racism, and prioritizing celebrity over advocacy for social causes. Simpson emerged as a symbol reflecting America's intricate interplay between race, celebrity, and justice. His trial unfolded just 2 years following the acquittal of 4 Los Angeles police officers accused of excessive force in the arrest of Rodney King, a black man. The officer's acquittal sparked 6 days of riots across Los Angeles. The trial touched upon deeply ingrained societal issues, including racism, police misconduct, gender dynamics, domestic violence, and a justice system perceived as favoring the wealthy and famous. It elicited strong and divergent opinions on these matters. Simpson, who once saw himself as a unifying figure in the nation, became a polarizing figure, with opinions about him and the case reflecting broader beliefs on various contentious topics. Simpson's acquittal further fractured the country, akin to an early version of a social media algorithm, as people swiftly turned against each other based on their interpretations of the case's implications for the United States. Racial divisions were particularly pronounced, with the black community viewing the trial through the lens of Los Angeles's history of police corruption and instances of racism within law enforcement. The trial prompted some to question whether the issues at play extended beyond O.J. Simpson himself, highlighting broader concerns of police corruption and systemic racism in American society. Conversely, others emphasized the need for justice for Nicole Brown-Simpson and Ronald Goldman, underscoring the gravity of their tragic deaths. O.J. Simpson passed away on April 10, 2024, at 76 years old, after battling prostate cancer.